Beverley Gilmour.
Beverley, good morning.
Hi, good morning. May I say good morning to all your listeners?
Yeah,
Hope they have a great day.
Thank you. But it's morning here, but where are you?
I'm in Lytham St. Anne's in United Kingdom.
So it's probably afternoon there for you, huh?
Yeah, it's 3 p.m.
So we were kind of drawn to your story. We talked about it, and then we kept talking about it, and then we've become fascinated with it. And so can you, before I get into some specific questions, can you kind of walk us through your life story, what has happened to you when you were younger and now what's happened to you recently?
Okay. Well, the near-death experiences, they began when I was 22 in 1987. And at that time, I was, I would say, a hobby writer, children's writer. I was writing little stories for my own children. I was a mother. I was a wife. And I had, life was really good. I had my own house. Yay. I was really proud of that. So that was an achievement back in 30 years ago. So, there was a time when I became a part-time policewoman. That was fun because I'm quite, partial to justice and things like that, and the law and everything. So
the first time that you had
I had a full life, really.
The first time that you had one of these experiences, was it because of a traumatic brain injury? Was it right then, or did you have an injury prior to that?
No, this is the actual interesting angle that we have, and this is what's fascinating the medics at the moment over here in the UK. I actually started the near-death experiences prior to the brain injury, but the actual near-death experiences healed the brain injury. So that is quite fascinating. So some people often think, well, she's had a brain injury, she was on a lot of medication, but it's actually the opposite. Prior to the brain injury, I was on no medication, and the near-death experiences were spontaneous.
So you have, according to what we've read, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you die like 3 times a month or 3 times ever?
No, it's on average about 2 to 3 times a month. The older I'm getting, the more they seem to be spread out. Like last month there was only 1, so and it's been about 3 weeks since I last had a near-death experience. So it seems the older I get, maybe my natural body is not coping with it, so it's shutting it down naturally. So that could be what's happening to me at the moment.
Do you feel it when it's about to happen? Do you feel it while it's happening physically?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say physically, I suppose, no, what I'm aware of, because this is my experiences, is I always know that I'm going to have a near-death. I never have one standing up or conscious or anything like that. And I never see images or anything like that when I'm awake. But I'll retire, I'll go to bed, and I start to go into a sort of like a very deep, it feels like a deep sleep, but it's actually the first stages of unconsciousness, and my heartbeat will stop. Well, it changes, it becomes very shallow until it actually slows down. And then I actually feel like, imagine you're turning a light switch off, and it happens in 4 sections of the brain, always in the same order. And it's always the upper right, the upper left, lower right. And then once that 4th one goes, snap, 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 then I actually feel, because I'm awake and I'm not, what I'm trying to say is I'm unconscious, but I'm awake, but I know my eyelids are closed. Do you understand what I mean?
I do. And could you pull yourself out of it if you wanted to, or are you just no?
Not that stage. No. I just start to. It's all it basically is a transitioning of consciousness. So you have that consciousness already. When you're alive, what's just happening is that part of your conscious is actually becoming your primary consciousness. And that's what lifts up. And then I will lift up and I can look down on myself. And then there's been lots of different stages. Sometimes I've just moved around the room. Sometimes I've gone out, and most times, majority of times, I always go through the white light, and then I meet those who have passed on. So
if it were happening,
there's always something.
Yeah, if it were happening to me, and I was for sure that it happened, I wouldn't tell anybody because I think that they would think I was crazy. It's like if aliens came and they abducted me, I ain't telling anybody because although it might have happened, I don't think anybody's going to believe me. So the first time this happens to you, did you fear that if you tell them that you died and came back to life, they thought you were crazy?
Absolutely. In fact, I never spoke about them for the first couple of years. I was terrified of what people would think of me because I actually tried to tell my husband at the time. Because at the beginning I just thought it was just like a very strange dream, and then it kept up. And then I actually met Cary Grant, and then I met my dad, and that's when I kind of like knew, hey, I'm crossing over here because, both Cary Grant and my dad have passed over. But I actually tried to tell my husband about it because when I was lifting up at one stage, I actually tried to wake him up. And my hand passed through his body. So your spirit can't hold anything physical. I tried to, before I rose up, I tried to lift the sheets up, like you would do naturally as if you woke up. You would wake up, you'd lift the sheets up, you'd get out of bed. So I was in that mindset. And I tried to lift the sheets up, but my hand was just passing through the sheets. And I was like, oh, what's happening? And my husband, he didn't like it. He was a very straight, black is black, white is white type of man, and he didn't want to talk about it. So that kind of like, I went into myself then and said, okay, I think I'm on my own on this one. I don't know what's happening. And I went around everywhere looking for answers. I went to every church that the door was open. I went in trying to find answers there. I went to spiritualist churches. I went to psychics. I went everywhere. And even though I'd get little snippets from different places, oh yeah, I can sort of like recognize what you're saying there. Not one of them was the complete package. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. They couldn't
so I
fully
kind of like
understand.
had to put little bits together of everybody's opinions. Yeah.
So when you go and you cross over, and I'm not sure if that's the term that you use, but for the sake of me asking the question, when you cross over and you mentioned your dad and you mentioned Cary Grant, are they like the old version of them, or could they choose any physically part, like their best looking times? Because I died and I was 90. I don't want to be 25. Like, what are they physically?
Now that's very interesting because from what I understand, from what I've learned, you become the best part of you. Because I saw my dad. Now he died when he was 52, so he was a mature gentleman. But the first time I saw him, he did look 52. Okay. The second time I saw him, which was a few years later, even though I wanted to see him all the time because he was my dad, I wasn't getting my own way here. I'd see him if there was a reason for it. So a couple of years later, when I saw him again, he looked about 30, and the way he spoke, the love that came from him, everything, and I was so proud of him. It was just like I was blown away because he was just so intelligent and clever and beautiful, and I was like, whoa. And in fact, when I came back from that, I burst into tears. And for several days afterwards, I would find myself, tearing up and thinking, how proud I am of him. Because he did have his challenges in life. He was an alcoholic in life.
My mom and my grandmother both passed away. And if I said, hey, could you get this note to them? Is that something you could do? Could you find them? Are there neighborhoods in this place? Or is it just you're allowed to see who you're supposed to see?
I would say I'm only allowed to see who I'm supposed to see, and it's for specific reasons. And I don't go cross over and go wandering around. Everything that I've gone through, when I come back, I would go into like a sort of semi-conscious sort of trance, and I would write about it. And they make very interesting writings, because it's sort of like I was being shown a lesson, and then the NDE was being explained why I was being shown it, what I was being taught. Whereas rather than just describing it and saying, I wonder why, I was actually given the answer in a follow-up near-death experience. It was like, the one way I can explain this to people is, I feel like I've been in like school, high school, from year 1 to year 5. And each year I was learning a bit more.
So are you a prophet, do you think?
No.
Even though you're having, in your mind, and you're in the story that you're telling us, and you're having these conversations with people that we cannot talk to, that are telling you and teaching you, and you're bringing it back down. I mean, isn't that a bit of a definition of a prophet?
No, because in my opinion, you see, there's millions of people who have near-death experiences, and we don't know. We're talking, you and I, but we don't know. Maybe there's a couple of thousand people who are going through the exact same thing as I am, and we just haven't found them yet. So, I wouldn't say that my near-death experiences are any more special than someone else's, because they're a near-death experience is a very beautiful and a very psychological event, and it's very close to the person who has it. And every single one, what we're yet to tap into, what I understand, what I've been doing is that, out of thousands and thousands of people who have a near-death experience, 99% of them will say, I experienced this love. It was incredible. It was immense. It felt solid. It was all around me. I felt like I could reach out and touch it. Well, from what I understand, from what I've learned, that love is created within us while we're over the physical life, and we carry it over. So the messages that I'm getting all the time is, let us open our hearts here and now, and let us use near-death experiences to have a better life. And that's, we are the love. We can live that love here and now. And I think that's perfect. It's a very beautiful message, and that's what it is. And anyone who's had a near-death experiences will tell you the same message.
I'd say it's prophetic, even, as a prophet would say. That's all I'm going to say. So, look.
I'm a posh scouser. I don't mind being called a posh scouser.
I don't know what that is, though. Is that like crumpets?
Well, no, apparently there's no such thing. It's someone born in Liverpool who's very posh.
Got it. Okay, see, I did. We're 90% same language, vernacular here. Okay, so is there a floor, or are you floating?
No, you float. You float up, and then you're flying. And then when you go through the white light, then you actually walk. You can walk, you can fly, you can move. It's like everything's in slow motion. It's like, I saw, for instance, I saw there's trees, there's grass. There was one experience I had where I was being told to cross a field, and I was really frightened to do this because the field had amazing flowers, every colour you could think of, beautiful, really enhanced. But I was aware that I had no shoes on my feet as I'm walking. And I was also aware that there was a lot of bumblebees in this field. And I did not want to cross the field because I was scared the bumblebees would sting me. I'd tread on one. And this voice came behind me and said, the bumblebees do not sting here. And hearing that, it let go of the fear, and I was able to cross the field.
Have they scanned your brain while this is happening, or is it so random that you can't actually predict it?
I can't predict it. We did go on to, it was like a heart monitor, when you have your heart, sort of monitored as you're doing it, and it did flatline. But at that time, when it was being investigated, there wasn't any scans or anything like that. It was just heartbeat monitor.
Any chance that you just sleep really deeply occasionally? Because sometimes I just get real tired. I don't sleep for, and I'm just like, oh, and I have a dream. And you don't think that's it at all? You don't think it's a super deep sleep?
no, because I've become such a different person because of them. Plus also it's, how can I explain this? Let me see. No, it's the events that go on. And plus also, I mean, why would I dream about Cary Grant? I mean, he was an actor in my mother's era. I didn't even actually know who he was when I saw him. I just recognized his voice. And that was
I mean, I dreamt
that was
about
all.
Macaulay Culkin on an elephant once. I have no idea why, but just maybe I picked up something, Okay, so you have met Jesus. Is that accurate?
Yep, that
Once,
is.
or like you guys like hang out?
You're following him. He sits and he tells stories and he teaches you, and you're following him. Can I tell you one experience with him, and then you get
I'd love to hear it.
uh, okay, this very beautiful. Um, okay, he was in front of us, and I was aware there was a group of us, and we were in a line, and there were 2 by 2, and we were walking behind him. And as he's walking forward, this some majestic marble stairway appears. And suddenly I became with the want, the desire, whatever, the need, that I wanted to walk with him. I wanted to be up there at the front, side by side. So I fell out the line and I ran ahead. And as I came to his side, he told me to look down at my feet. And I looked down at my feet and I saw that my left foot was slightly in front of his right foot. And because of that, the step underneath disappeared. And I suddenly felt like, oh, I'm going to fall. Yeah. So I moved back. And as I moved back, he brought his foot forward again. And the marble step appeared under his foot. And from that, I knew, he didn't sacrifice himself for us to walk right next to him. He sacrificed himself so we follow him, so that he will lead us and he will keep us safe. And that's what that near-death experience was saying to me, follow me. Don't walk in front of me. Don't walk beside me. Follow me. So you see how simple it is? It's very beautiful, and see how simple.
Would you have considered yourself a religious person before these started happening to you?
Probably, yeah. I always had a very strong relationship with him since I was a little girl, but I didn't quite belong to any one church, so I would say, it's like spiritual Christian, but that was just growing up. But I've always had a personal relationship with him that I've that I keep to me, and I share it if people ask about it. But
is everybody famous up where you go, or are there any like normal people where you're like, "What's up? Hey, who are you? I'm Chris." Does that ever happen?
Well, not in that sort of like tone, no. I can tell you that someone came up to me and started talking to me, and I couldn't understand a word they were saying, because every couple of words it's sort of like it was blocked out, so it wasn't there. And it was like, hello, blue, hello, blue, I'm blue. And I couldn't understand why that was. It wasn't a coherent conversation. And I later learned that the reason for that was that within his lifetime, this chap had taught himself the swear word like profoundly. So he was like, best friends with a swear word. Well, with the spirit, the swear word can't be heard. And that's why his conversation was breaking up.
I got one of those virtual reality headsets, and you get to go in a room with all these people, and you do, and sometimes you don't know the language they're speaking, but you're all just kind of hanging out as like avatars. It kind of feels like that's what this is.
Yeah. The other thing that was very, very interesting as well is if it was a female, actually. I never met her before. I didn't know who she was, and she came up to me, and she started conversing with me, and I suddenly felt that she wasn't on my wavelength. You know, her belief system, yeah? And all I said was, leave me of your company. And as soon as I said that, she wasn't able to converse with me anymore. She had to go. So it's like you protect this love that you carry over there, and you just immerse yourself in it. And if anything like negative comes to you, you actually protect this love that you've created in life.
I just have a couple more questions for you, which, by the way,
Sure.
her book, A Journey of Actual Death Experiences, the exploration of the human consciousness through spiritual intervention, came out in 2018. I want you to check it out, by Beverley, Gilmour, and I'm going to ask you about the book in just a second. But a couple more questions. We had talked about an interaction that you had with Walt Disney. Multiple interactions or just one, and what did he say?
Loads. Absolutely. He basically became my mentor over there. And what he was doing was he was teaching me how to be a storyteller. He was teaching me about, he sort of like, he created this group of characters, and the group of characters are very spiritual, and it was fascinating. And he was able to illuminate them, and he was able to show me how to put this story together. And this group of characters are actually called Spirit Council. And they're there protecting the mysterious crystal of life, and there's heaven, inner and earth, and pathway of time, and the Spirit Council, the mysterious crystal life shatters, and they've got to go and find a true guardian. And it was an amazing story, and he brought it to life and showed me. And when I came back, I wrote about it. So it was, you know.
You ever do the Mickey voice? Hey, it's me.
I actually saw Mickey.
Whoa,
I saw Mickey
my
Mouse.
God.
The very first time I met Walt, I walked. It was like we were walking in. I walked into a building, and how can I put this? Everything was like wood, but it was like oak, and it was very rich. It was very, it's like everything over there is alive. There's nothing dead there. It's all alive. Even the bricks and the floors and the trees and everything. And we walked up to this doorway, and there was two men standing at the doorway, and it was like they were like security men. They were like, "You're not going in this door." And as I approached, they moved out the way, so I knew I was allowed to go in. And when I went in, there it was. And I thought that, well, it was basically me. I asked him I want you to teach me about your magic. And he turned around and he said, "I admire your cheek," which I thought was quite funny. Well, I did when I thought about it when I came back. And the next thing he did is he just waved his hand, and he produced this like 3-foot animated Mickey Mouse and then a 3-foot animated Donald Duck, and they began chasing themselves around this room. And he said, "Shall we begin?" And that was the very first one I had.
I guess the question I have about that is, since Mickey was never a real person, Mickey can't die. So how was this the afterlife if Mickey was never actually alive?
Well, when he produced it as an animated form. I saw it as an animated form. I didn't see a live Mickey Mouse. I saw the animation. He produced it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, he showed me many, many things, but it again, for us, when we come back, we want to question, is this Walt's paradise? And, he shared that with me. So someone else, like a famous painter, would you find them in an art gallery, painting a way to eternal life? You see what I mean?
Yeah. Is everybody dressed from different eras? Like if you're in the 50s, the 20s, the Vikings, like they have their clothes on from that era?
No. I never saw anything like Vikings and stuff like that. No.
Anybody naked?
I never saw. No. I was asked a similar question actually, and no.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering what's up. I just feel like it's a hodgepodge, a whole melting pot of everybody from all the ages. Abraham Lincoln, hanging out with Fred Flintstone. Was he real? No?
Animated.
Oh, animated too.
Yeah.
The website, wearethelove.co.
No, that.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Yeah,
So-
now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
Okay?
So let me say
Now
the
we're
website, wearethelove.co.uk. What's on the website and why would we go to it?
Right, on the website, what I've done, I've basically explained about what the love is, okay, because it's all about loving yourself. It's all about spiritual love. It's all about the energy of the universe and everything. So I've explained that. I've told people who I am. I've told them what happens to me, the stages when I go unconscious and everything. So that's on there. And then I've also included a couple of near-death experiences with the ones who have influenced me the most, so Jesus, and then there's the Cary Grant, and then Walt Disney. So people can actually, if they want to, they can actually read the near-death experiences with Jesus that I had, and then with Cary Grant and with Walt Disney. And I'm also doing a blog because I've found out that people really like a sort of like current feel to it. So every week, if I'm sort of like well enough, I will actually do an experience and talk about the love, and then people can comment on it, and people can share their near-death experiences and what they understand the love to be as well.
Okay, so last question I have for you. And the website is wearethelove.co.uk. And we'll put it up there so people can click it. But how are you making money off this?
No.
Really?
No.
No money.
Yeah.
It's no GoFundMe, no link to pay you, nothing.
No. There's a link on there to the Snow Mice book, but I'm not marketing it yet. So I don't even think people can buy it yet.
Wow. So you're making no money? Well, I'd be
Not
charging.
yet.
I tell you, who you want to go meet? I'll go get word to them right now. You want George Washington? Got it. Judy Garland? Let's go. Okay.
It's like I've got to lay everything down first, and I've got to get everything in the right order, or else people are not going to follow it. It's got to be in a particular order, and it's got to be done so that people can relate to what this message is. That's more important for me. I mean, they can go on the snow mites. The snow mites have been going for a long time. They can buy the snow mites, but it's not really for sale at the moment. They might find it on Amazon somewhere, but it's not. Okay. It's not being promoted.
Well, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate, the honesty in your story, and it feels like the message is love. I mean,
it is.
All you need is love. Those guys from over in your area said it best. All you need is love, So, Beverley, thank you so much, and I hope you have good health. And do you want to die though and not come back? Because it does. If it's true and it's this awesome, don't you just want to die forever?
No, because what they teach you is to value life. You see, that's what a lot of people don't understand when they're promoting this story. My near-death experience are not a story about death. They're a story about life, because I value life so much now that every part of life is precious to me. So I'm going to stay here for as long as I can.
Thank you for your time, Beverley. Hope you have a great day.
Okay.
And
you too.
Maybe here or another life we'll run into each other.
Well, you never know.
Never know.
You never know.
All right, Beverley. Thank you. See you later.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
It's a Bobby Bones Show.